Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're getting into code, you are about to unlock one of your very first and maybe one of your most important superpowers, the Python function. Seriously, this is the tool that's going to take you from someone who just writes lines of code to someone who can build really elegant, powerful programs. All right, let's get into it.
So every new programmer hits this wall. You know the feeling. You find yourself writing the same 3, 5, maybe even 10 lines of code again and again and again. It just feels clunky, it's messy, and you have this nagging feeling in the back of your head that there's gotta be a better way. Well, you're right. This is the classic problem of wasted effort. And this captures that feeling perfectly, doesn't it? I mean, look at the left side. That's the frustrating, messy code. It's repetitive, and if you want to change something, it's a total headache. But then you look over at the right, and that's the goal. It's clean, it's simple, it's reusable. That is the magic of what a function does. It turns the mess on the left into the elegance you see on the right. You know, this whole idea is so fundamental to good programming that it actually has its own name, DRY. It stands for Don't Repeat Yourself. It's a core principle that basically says, hey, if you're writing the same chunk of code more than once, just stop and look for a better solution. And 9 times out of 10, that solution is going to be a function. So let's talk about that solution, right? We're leaving the problem of repetition behind, and we're stepping into the superpower that fixes it, the function. This is where your code starts to become truly smart and reusable. So what is a function really? At its core, it's just a named block of code that you can use over and over again. The best analogy? It's like a recipe. You write down the instructions for, say, baking a cake one time. Then, anytime you want a cake, you just grab that recipe and follow it. You don't have to reinvent how to bake a cake from scratch every single time. And what's so great is how all these benefits just kind of build on each other. When you start reusing code, your programs naturally get smaller, which makes them simpler. And when your code is simple, it's way clearer and easier to read. And you guessed it, when your code is easy to read, finding and squashing those inevitable bugs becomes like 10 times easier. It is a win-win-win-win situation. All right, enough theory. Let's get practical. Let's actually learn the spell for creating our very own functions. And trust me, it's way simpler than you might be thinking. So every single function you write has this same basic anatomy. First, you start with the keyword def. That's you telling Python, hey, I'm defining a function now. Then you give it a descriptive name, followed by parentheses. You end that first line, we call it the header, with a colon. And then, this part is absolutely crucial. The code that actually belongs to the function is indented underneath. That indentation is how Python knows what's inside the function and what's not. Just a super quick word on naming these things. The rules are pretty simple. Don't start the name with a number, and don't use words Python has already reserved for itself, like the word print. But honestly, the most important rule of all is to just be descriptive. A function named calculate_total is a million times more helpful than one named function1. Okay, so we know how to create a basic function. Level 1 complete. Now, let's upgrade our abilities. This is where we learn how to make our functions really flexible by sending information into them and getting useful results out of them. Now, this is a classic point of confusion for beginners, but the idea is actually pretty simple. The argument is the actual value you send into the function. It's like the letter you put in the mail. In this case, it's the number 3. The parameter is the mailbox inside the function that receives that letter. It's just a placeholder variable, like n, that holds on to the value you sent. So remember, you send an argument, the function receives it as a parameter. Okay, let's talk about the difference between print and return. This is a big one. Using print inside your function is like shouting a result out loud. Yeah, people can see it on the screen, but you can't do anything with it. Using return, on the other hand, is like handing someone a note with the result written on it. Now they can take that value, they can store it in a variable, and they can use it in their next calculation. That ability to return a value is what makes functions truly powerful building blocks. And here's a little phrase to remember, kind of like the Las Vegas rule of coding. What happens in the function stays in the function. This is all about something called local variables. If you create a variable inside a function, it only exists there. The rest of your program can't see it or mess with it, and that prevents all sorts of confusing bugs down the line. It's a really good thing. So, let's just zoom out for a second here. Mastering functions isn't just about writing tidier code. No, it's a fundamental shift in how you think about building things. You're moving away from writing one long, messy script, and you're starting to think like an architect, creating organized, modular programs. This is honestly my favorite analogy for functions. They're like Lego bricks. You design a specific piece once, calculate the area brick, or a print of fancy header brick. Once you've perfected that piece, you can reuse it anywhere, combining it with all your other custom bricks to build something far more complex and impressive than you ever could with just one giant block. So what's the next logical step? Well, if functions are your Lego bricks, then a module is your labeled toolkit. It's just a separate Python file where you store a collection of related functions. Maybe you'll have a mathtools.py module or a textprocessing.py module. It becomes your own personal spellbook of custom powers that you can bring into any project.
And the benefits of doing this are just huge. By organizing your functions into modules, you can import your custom toolkits into any program you write. Your code becomes incredibly organized and way easier to maintain. And here's the real game changer. If you find a bug in one of your functions, you only have to fix it in one place, inside that one module file, and that fix is instantly applied everywhere you've used it. So there you have it. You've seen how to turn that repetitive, messy code into clean, reusable functions. You know how to make them flexible, how to get results back from them, and even how to organize them into your own powerful toolkits. You now have one of coding's greatest tools right at your fingertips. So the only question left is, what problem are you going to solve first?